hard. That would be very hard. To leave everybody around you and to go where God told you to go. Not knowing anything about where you were going. Then came he out of the land of the Chaldeans and dwelt in Choran. And from thence his father was dead. When his father was dead, he removed him into this land wherein you now dwell. Now Abraham stayed in Choran for 2 to 3 years. Could have been, as I read this, it could have been that Abraham's father was hindering his obedience unto God. Because he was up in years. He was sickly. He wasn't in good health. And so when he died, Abraham went on. He went on. And he gave him none inheritance in it. No, not so much as he set his foot on. Yet he promised that he would give it to him for a possession and to his seed after him, when as yet he had no child. Abraham did not own a piece of ground. The only thing he had was the promise. Now, knowing that you didn't own nothing and all that you had was the promise of God. For his inheritance. So, I mean, you look. How many of us today have a hard time just accepting the promises today that we read about?
We have a hard time testifying.
Yep. The only thing that Abraham owned was a cave that he had bought to bury his wife, Sarah, in. That's all he owned. And God spoke on this wise, that his seed should sojourn in a strange land, and that they should bring them into bondage, and to entreat them evil for 400 years. Yeah. From Abraham to Moses, 430 years is the length of this promise. Now, how many of us today could last that long on that promise? We can't last from here to Moulton on it. But so sometimes I think that we could learn a lot from poor Abraham if we'd just listen.
His promise had to be handed down the word of mouth. Because Moses hadn't wrote the Old Testament yet.
So, and the nation to whom they shall be in bondage will I judge, said God. And after that they shall come forth and serve me in this place. The nation whom God spoke of, that they would be in bondage to, is Egypt. Now, just think. Now, it wasn't very many of them at one time. Yeah. But over this many years, they multiplied into a great people. Yeah. he's walking. And he's going. Kind of brings the new meaning to following God blindly, don't it? And he gave him the covenant of circumcision. And so Abraham begot Isaac and circumcised him on the 8th day. And Isaac begot Jacob. And Jacob begot the 12 patriarchs. The 12 patriarchs was Jacob's sons, which was the 12 heads of the tribes of Israel. So you start seeing this promise coming into picture, coming into the frame. You're starting to see some things.
Who was Stephen and where did his name come? He's the one telling it,
Right.
right? And he's telling it to folks we know knew the word.
Right.
So, I missed last one. Who was Stephen? Where did he come from? Was he from the priesthood? I know what he was a deacon. He was one of those that were made into the deaconship that they did in chapter 5.
Mm.
That
Yeah.
set of men.
In the beginning of chapter 6. Yeah. I think it wasn't it, Ronnie?
I know that's where he came into play because
Them deacons,
I-
what lineage he was, whether he was a Danite or a
was even a Jew.
Southfield, was he a Jew? I'm sure he was a Jew at this time. I don't know that.
Is it said in there?
I don't remember it being said, but I think at this time it wasn't open to the Gentiles that much yet.
And my point into this is, could you imagine those scribes and Pharisees? They're going to stone him. But they got to hear a nobody tell them everything they should have already known.
Right. It don't say where it come from.
And we were talking earlier, now the Pharisees, all we know about them is really bad stuff. But I'm sure that a lot of the Pharisees, because they were the people that the other people went to ask questions about the God.
We learned their intelligence through Paul.
Yeah.
Go to Philippians, and even in Ephesians and some of those books, Paul gives us of his learning. If Paul was not like Peter and them, found to be ignorant.
Yeah.
Paul knew the scriptures. He was a Pharisee of Pharisees.
Yeah.
He was high rank of the Pharisees. He was next in line for the priesthood, I believe it says at one point. He knew the word of God from front to back. He didn't miss one tidbit.
Wow.
In matter of fact, you go to the book of Philippians, he says, as touching the righteousness which is of the law, and blameless. Now here we go, we say nobody can keep the law. I can't find that any other way, but Paul kept the law to the letter.
Yeah.
But there were some things he didn't understand.
To the period and the commas and all that stuff.
Every bit of it, that's what he was saying. He was taught by the highest teacher there was to teach. And he knew the law, but yet at this point in time, he's holding the coat for the men who's stoning Stephen.
Right.
He's here. One of those happened to hear a nobody tell me what I already know, but ain't figured it out.
Right. But he will. Now, I understand what you're saying. That's kind of like a lot of folks today. They read it and they ought to know it.
Amen.
And they get upset when somebody starts trying to tell them about it that knows it.
Head knowledge instead of heart knowledge.
Yep.
Well, God had given Joseph all these dreams, all that the future about himself, and then talking to himself among his brothers, and they didn't like that. They didn't like it at all. So, his people come back on their way to Egypt, so they sold him.
Yep. He said, and the patriarchs moved with envy, jealousy, sold Joseph into Egypt, but God was with him. Now, Joseph was sold for 20 pieces of silver. Now, we're going to make some comparisons of some things. A lot of people says that Joseph is the Christ of the Old Testament. Joseph was sold for 20 pieces of silver. Jesus was sold for 30 pieces of silver. And that 30 pieces of silver then was the price of a slave. Joseph was punished for sins he did not commit. Jesus was sinless and was punished for our sins. Yeah, Joseph was put in prison. Jesus descended into the prison to preach to the captives. Joseph became a ruler of the prison. Jesus preached in hell. Joseph miraculously was freed, and Jesus miraculously arose. And I thought that was kind of unique about those things, about how they compared a little bit there. But see, Joseph, he was a humble guy. Now, Tim, we're going to get down in a minute now. If you was my brother and you sold me, now look, the next time I seen you, it would probably be a bad day.
You know, you spent some time in slavery, at least 2 or 3 or 4 years in prison. The dungeon of prison.
Yeah.
Because your brother sold you.
Now, I would be a little bit upset. Just a little bit.
That's because Potiphar's wife tried to give him a chance at her when he did.
Yeah.
He's the one that got through him. Big lesson there. If I get after you, run. He had to throw you in the dungeon.
Well, I mean, you just think about the character of Joseph. You think about his character. What kind of character this young man had?
I think he was humble.
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't have, I believe he didn't have the temper.
But I'm going to tell you, God had a plan. And God's got a plan for every one of us.
Amen.
And God's got a plan for this place. But we got to let God work his plan.
Well, you know, my favorite thing about Joseph was, by the end of it all, he was the king's right-hand man. And you know, if you think about, we're a lot so much like Joseph that we don't realize, because we have so many people that we know that come against us, that's not in church, and treats us a lot of the same ways. Our families disown us, and our friends disown us because we want to serve God rather than man. And then at the end of it all, we're going to be at the throne of God.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Now Joseph gets he gets the last say here, but before we get down, I try not to get down that far ahead because it really talked to me a little bit there, and delivered him out of all his afflictions, and gave him favor and wisdom in the sight of Pharaoh, king of Egypt. And he made him governor over Egypt and all, what is it? Ronnie always says, all his house. Now, God delivered Joseph out of every trap that the devil had laid for him. And if we'll let God, he'll deliver us out of every trap that the devil lays for us. But we have got to follow his lead, and wherever he carries us, and he'll keep us out of harm's way.
And the hard part of that is wait.
Well, we don't want to talk about that today. We in instant America, we got instant coffee, instant hot chocolate, instant breakfast. We got instant everything. Right. Sure do.
Can I tell you something funny about that?
Go ahead.
God said that Russians come over here and they want to
Only in Russia.
I'm sorry, y'all forgive me, okay?
Now there came a dearth, which is a famine, over all the land of Egypt and Canaan, and that in great affliction, and our fathers found no substance. This was a 7-year famine. God's plan. God's plan, and we'll see why He planned it this way. And when Jacob heard that there was corn in Egypt, he sent out our fathers first. He sent his sons out. He sent his sons out, and it was God's plan for Joseph's brothers to come and buy the corn.
What was the dream he had? They had to bow down.
Mm-hmm. So they had to come and buy the corn from Joseph. Now, I got kind of intrigued there, because the first time they come, they didn't know him. Mm-hmm. And at the second time, Joseph was made known to his brothers. And Joseph's kindred was made known unto Pharaoh. Joseph sought Pharaoh so that he could take care of his family. God's plan. Yeah. Now, question here. Go back to what I said a while ago. Now, Tim sold me for 20 pieces of silver into slavery, and he come back around. He needs some corn, and I got the corn. What would you normally do today? Look at Tim and say, suffer, buddy. But that's not the heart of Joseph. That ain't what Joseph done. See, if we can get a hold of the heart of Joseph and the heart of God when it comes to dealing with people, we could get a lot further spiritually with God than what we are. Right. But they fixing to know him. Then sent Joseph and called his father Jacob to him, and all his kindred 75 souls. The brothers had to come clean with their father about what they had done to Joseph. Now, see, all this time, the brothers let Jacob think that Joseph was dead. And the first time they told him that Joseph was alive, he didn't believe them. But they finally convinced him that he was alive. Oh, yeah. It found them, didn't it?
Oh, wait, that's me. I got caught.
So Jacob went down into Egypt and died, he and our fathers. Jacob lived in Egypt for 15 to 17 years. Joseph was 17 years old when his brothers sold him. He lived in Egypt for 93 years and died at the age of 110. He lived a long life. And his brothers thought they'd got rid of him. From what I can understand, he outlived his brothers. Somebody read verse 16.
And were carried over into Shechem and laid in the sepulchre that Abraham brought for a sum of money of the sons of Emor, the father of Isaac.
Okay. But when the time of the promise drew near, which God sworn to Abraham, the people grew and multiplied in Egypt. God's timing is just as important as His promise. My timing, Holly, ain't like God's timing. My timing gets me in trouble. Because it goes back to that word that Ronnie was talking about a while ago. Wait. See, we get impatient waiting on God. How could you wait? Boy, just think we had to wait 400 years. Just think if we had to wait as long as Joseph waited for his brothers to have to come and fulfill that promise. It'd be, you see what I'm saying? So there's a lot that Joseph went through and that Joseph accomplished as a governor in Pharaoh's house.
Can you compare them in Egypt today? They told them 400 years, there's going to be a deliverer coming.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be a deliverer. I've heard that all my life. I've heard there's going to be a deliverer. Dad said he'd heard it all his life. We ain't seen it yet. What makes you think a deliverer's going to come? What about today?
Mm-hmm.
Jesus is coming. I've heard that all my life.
Yep. Till another king now. Till another king arose, which knew not Joseph. He didn't know him. He didn't know everything that the other Pharaoh knowed about Joseph. He didn't have the favor with this king that he had before. He didn't have all the prestige that he had. All the stuff that he had with the Pharaoh before this one was out the window.
Joseph might already been dead.
It most likely was dead.
Mm-hmm.
Might already been dead at that reason. This king don't even remember.
As we know, jealousy of the Pharisees here. Just imagine the jealousy of Pharaoh.
Mm-hmm.
They were not just kings. They considered themselves God.
Right.
So now, the history told them that a mere mortal ruled over all Egypt. See, you didn't say a while ago, when Pharaoh put Joseph in power, not just over his whole house, he also said, Joseph has all power except for when I'm on the throne.
Mm-hmm.
He said, he's even over me if I'm not sitting on the throne.
Son, you're talking about some authority, buddy.
So this was a mere mortal in their eyes that had power to rule. So as soon as Joseph and this Pharaoh died, they started weeding him out of history.
Mm-hmm.
You know why you can't find a whole lot on Joseph in history? They blotted over all that stuff. They hid that because we ain't having no mere mortal over God.
Right.
Think how mad these Pharisees, their tempers boiling right now, and Stephen's speaking to them.
And
They ain't happy, I guarantee you.
another thing that just brought to my mind is how many times has the world and Satan, the leader of it, tried to eradicate or erase Jesus? And they ain't done it yet.
They've tried every way they can think of.
They have written him out of the book. I'm sure you know. Josephus is the only one that describes it.
Yeah.
There's no description, there's no name.
As long as I got this book right here in front of me.
Bones in a grave.
No,
Do a DNA.
that you can't. And the same dealt subtly with our kindred. And evil entreated our fathers, so that they cast out their young children to the end they might not live.
So that's when he gave orders to the midwives. He took the midwives to kill all of the boys they did.
Yeah.
But they didn't do it.
Mm-mm.
They feared God. So they spared them. Moses was one of them that was spared.
Yeah. So now just something. It's just something I'm thinking here. if the Pharaoh that Joseph served under, if he was still king and ruler over Egypt at this time, this wouldn't have happened, and the children of Israel would have been satisfied to stayed in Egypt. So if this Pharaoh had been good to them as the other, they would not have wanted to leave Egypt. God had a plan. God had a plan. So their mistreatment in the far as their babies and stuff, that got their dandruff up, got their mane ruffled, and they got upset. So they're gonna say, well, we need a deliverer. Little did they know the deliverer was being ready to be born. So I thought, as I was reading this and going over it and studying, these are just some thoughts that I jotted down. I mean, you just think about it. I mean, there's so much about what we're coming up to in history of this nation and the history of Israel's coming up to now that we can go back and look and see how things were then. We ain't far from it, y'all. We're not far from it. I don't think we far from the second coming. Oh yeah. And this verse 19 is the first I got yesterday and today. Yeah.
Solomon's time is like $5 bills out here. They just started. But they turned their back on God when they got there. So Rehoboam come along, they turned their back on God. And he sold them into slavery again. Egypt has been into slavery how many times in the Old Testament? Anybody ever counted it? I'm sure 4, 5, 8, or 10, something like that. God either raised them up, they turned their back on him,
Mm-hmm.
this nation started as the poorest nation on earth. He raised us up. In World War II, we were the 17th smallest army in the world.
Yeah. But you know something I read today? And everything, and it kind of struck me kind of odd. That when America was formed, and God blessed it the way He did, because America was to defend Israel and watch over Israel. That's what God's plan was for America. That's the reason we got so many politicians now that's trying to walk away from Israel, because the devil has put in their heart, we need not deal with Israel no more. But we still have some that still knows what the Bible says about us being a protector. And so I thought that was interesting today when I read it. So.
In a couple of these verses, also the question asked about who Stephen was and what was his lineage. It doesn't tell us specifically here, but he clarifies that, and he mentions our fathers. Yeah. Talking about the patriarchs.
Yeah.
Who came, all that came into Egypt. He is one of Israel. Was he a Jew? We don't know. Because all that are Jews are not Jews.
Mm-hmm.
They are Israelites because of the dispersion of the 12 tribes.
Uh-huh.
He's one of the 12
Uh-huh.
tribes. Don't know which one where, what, but yeah.
He's in the neighborhood.
This is all about Stephen. This is what Stephen is telling us. He knew a lot.
He sure did.
He didn't have a script there to go by. He told them from his heart.
From what he knew.
Deathbed.
Yeah, pretty much.
On his deathbed.
Because
He didn't open the scroll and start reading all this. He told them what he memorized, what he knew. And it's all word for word scripture.
Mm-hmm. He was on his way to his crucifixion with a rock. So, but church, I love you and I appreciate you. Appreciate you coming out in this cold weather. Sunday morning, Brother Nicholson will be preaching. Sunday night, Brother Adam will be preaching. Friday morning, Bible study at 11, unless the roads is impassable and we're making snowmen. Well, what I seen on the a while ago before I left to come